Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to the channel. This time we're taking a look at a new RTS game that is coming out of a studio called Playside, and they're actually making one based in the Game of Thrones universe. So this was revealed yesterday at the Summer Game Fest, and to be honest with you, from the trailer here, I had no idea that this was going to be a real-time strategy game. I can only assume that we're going to get hero characters in this RTS because, of course, we're looking at Jon Snow, we're looking at the Night King, there's Jaime Lannister there, there's, Targaryen dragons flying by and breathing fire down on huge armies. So it probably looks like there's going to be, if not heroes, then at least some very powerful, like, tier 3 units here. Now, whilst the trailer does look very awesome and it is impressive, the proof is always in the pudding. What does the gameplay actually look like? Well, over on Steam, where they've dropped the store page now and you can go and wishlist the game, there is actually a dev blog from the developer, and there are a few screenshots I'm going to show you guys as well. So it looks like we're going to have 4 different factions in the game. First of all, you've got House Stark, then we've got House Targaryen, we have House Lannister, and then you can also play as the Night King and his army as well. So aesthetically, I think the game actually looks really impressive. It reminds me quite a bit of Age of Empires, maybe a little bit more zoomed in, but I think fans of Age of Empires games are most likely going to like this as well here. Obviously, this is pre-alpha footage, right? So development still has a long way to come. I believe the game is slated to release sometime next year, so no release date has been given yet. But I think this game could show a lot of promise. Obviously, the franchise of Game of Thrones, that they've really been given a golden egg here, Playside have, from Warner Brothers by being able to create a game around that franchise. But there's no guarantee that it's going to be a fantastic game just because it's based in the Game of Thrones universe, but I really do think it looks quite promising. Something else that's actually very interesting is that I believe this game is running on the Snowplay engine. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Snowplay is actually the Stormgate engine that has been developed by Frost Giant Games. Now, I have looked online and I haven't found any official confirmation of this, so at the moment, this is just sort of a rumor, but if maybe you found official confirmation, feel free to post that down in the comments. But this dates back to a post 4 months ago in the real-time strategy subreddit, where a user there says he was actually eating at a restaurant where some of the Playside developers were sat around and they were discussing how they were developing this Game of Thrones RTS game and that it was running on the Stormgate engine. Now, that was 4 months ago. The game was only officially revealed yesterday, so it actually looks like that user wasn't telling fibs, he was telling the truth. And so I have every reason to believe that he's 100% correct in that. Maybe Frost Giant Games have started selling their engine to other parties, which I think is also a good thing for both Frost Giant Games and Stormgate, because them licensing out their engine to other developers means more cash flow and therefore better games out of that studio and a bit more stability for them. Unreal Engine 5, of course, isn't really renowned for RTS games, and so when Frost Giant began development of an RTS game in Stormgate, they realized they would have to make a lot of changes to it, and so now they seem to be actually reaping some of the rewards of that. So here we have a few screenshots again from Steam. Like, honestly, I just love the aesthetic of the game. It's kind of impressive how different than Stormgate it actually looks, if it is indeed running on the Snowplow engine. This dragon here breathing their fire looks absolutely incredible. I love the map. Of course, we're all familiar. Anybody who's watched Game of Thrones, I'm pretty sure most of you guys were there watching it every week, just like I was back in the day. And it's been a long time since I've really heard or thought much about Game of Thrones, maybe outside of the House of the Dragon show that I've been watching. And it's just nice to be brought back to this world again. I think the geography of the world is also going to allow for a lot of different play spaces. You've got, all of the desert-like, more dry, arid areas of the world, like where the Targaryens are. Then you've got the lush, verdant forests, where the Lannisters reside. And then, of course, you've got all the snowy area around House Stark and the Night King and all that stuff. So I think they've actually got a really nice base to work with here. So I'm definitely excited to see what comes out of this. So taking a look at this devlog here in a little bit more detail, I think this looks like it could be the Night King faction. So we have a squadron of archers here. We can also see what look like some skeletons, I think, down in the bottom left there. And it does appear that we're going to be able to basically organize our army in different formations for the different squadrons. And you can also see a little pop-up down in the bottom right there, which does confirm that this game is running on Unreal Engine. Over on the left, it says new politics tokens are available. So it does seem like, surprise, surprise, politics are going to play a big role in this game. And I do wonder if that's what the little panel is up in the top middle there with the scroll and what looks like some sort of coins there that you can pay for various abilities. Seems like they're using a QWERTY type layout here for the attack commands, guard, and all of that. I'm not as big of a fan of that. Hopefully that's just going to be placeholder. I do prefer, you know, A as my attack key, G as guard, and all that kind of thing. As I mentioned earlier, there are going to be what looks like a number of hero characters in this game, and this one here, I think it has to be Daenerys Targaryen, right, with the robe there and everything, and the hair and the braids, and I think the likelihood is that she will almost certainly be astride a huge dragon. So here we can see one of the, what looks like the main sort of starting town hall. You can tell also by the texture on, I think that's a wolf. It's obviously like a placeholder texture there, or it has no texture, I should say. So things are pretty early on here. They've still got a lot of work to do. But the aesthetics of the terrain, I think it looks fantastic. I think they've really captured the Game of Thrones look and feel exceptionally well here. It's very dark, gloomy, and sort of gritty in a way that you'd expect Game of Thrones to be. The last thing you want from that series is something that's too cartoony, you know, happy-go-lucky and silly. So I really do think they've nailed the aesthetic here. So in this one here, he's doing a bit of building, storehouse construction complete, it says on the right side there. So these are presumably your supply unit, and up in the top left, there seems to be a bit of green text from the console as well that does confirm that this is the supply building for this faction. Those seem to be like peasants in the bottom left, though. They could be some sort of militia. Here we get a bit of a quick glimpse of some archers going up against what look like skeletons there for the Night King's faction. We've, of course, got cavalry here. There are siege engines in here. We've got giants. Again, there's no texture, so I do wonder what these giants, or if there's more mythical creatures that don't perhaps belong to any one faction. Is it going to be maybe the Warcraft 3 system, where you go and recruit certain creatures? The dragons, this is like the standout moment for me here. The dragons look so epic. Just really awesome. They've absolutely nailed that. So here we can see there are spells in the game there, massive explosion of green mist, and all of these pikemen go flying. Here we've got some archers using fire arrows, and I really love this. The dragon going down, instead of it just sort of erupting in the air into a mist of blood and bones or something like that, like you'd normally see in an RTS, it actually comes crashing down to the ground. The same way you see it in the Game of Thrones series, like we've seen in House of the Dragons, of course. Pretty epic death animation there. I do wonder if this can actually damage troops. I like this too as well, the attention to detail. This shows like how the world is affected when one of the horse riders comes through here. All of these birds, you know, move out of the way. And I think it's that attention to detail that is important to make a successful RTS and actually have it be, you know, somewhat realistic and authentic. I think this could turn out to be really, really good. I am interested to know what their approach is in terms of single player, multiplayer. I'm going to assume they're going to have a large focus on the campaign with all of these characters, all of these factions, you know, all of the great lore of the world. How can you not make an epic campaign out of that? But does that mean that the multiplayer side of the game isn't going to be as fleshed out then? I think we seem to see a lot of RTS developers go in one direction or the other. With Stormgate, they definitely decided to knuckle down on the versus mode, on the multiplayer, and then sort of let the campaign take a bit of a backseat. Whereas with games like Tempest Rising, we saw that that was really all about the campaign, and then the multiplayer mode was perhaps the mode that didn't get as much time spent on it as the campaign. So what is it going to be like for this game? I would probably put my money that it's going to have an epic campaign. It's going to be a paid title. You know, you pay your $30, your $40, or whatever it costs, and you can just go in, play the campaign, and be out. Hopefully it's going to have a nice multiplayer mode as well, though, but I suppose time will tell. As always, guys, leave me your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think of the game. It's always exciting when we see more RTSs coming along. Of course, we've recently had the sad news that Battle Aces has been cancelled. It's been shelved. So I think it's always nice to see new RTS games on the horizon. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. Subscribe to stay up to date with everything in the RTS sphere. And I will see you guys in the next one.